Hello, I'm Christina, and I'm here with Martina,
Hello, everyone.
and we're your podcast hosts for Everyday Ordinary, Extraordinary Men. Most humans have a lot of preconceived notions and stereotypes about gender. For example, men are tough, silent, and forceful, where women can be chatty, manipulative, or emotional. In doing that, we put people in a box and often forget to see beyond those labels. And if someone is not fitting the mold, we might call them names like tomboy or sissy. Those and similar labels often cause discord. What would a world look like where we go beyond our preconceived notions and understand that we are much more than our gender? That we humans are strong and soft and gentle, deep and powerful, tough, fierce, and open. The qualities are not specific to a gender, that we all have all qualities available to express. What would a world look like where we all are free to be who we choose to be and express all of our emotions? When we allow ourselves to express the so-called masculine and feminine qualities within ourselves, we set ourselves free. When we allow others to do the same, when we accept all of them, we create synergy, peace, and harmony. Today, we are excited to have Michael on the program joining us all the way from Australia. Michael is a Zen yoga Qi Gong instructor. So, Michael, I'm going to have you introduce yourself and share a little bit more about you.
Thank you very much, Christina. It's really an honor to be here to talk to you and Martina. And thank you for inviting me onto the show. So my name's Michael Bromley. I'm based here in the Gold Coast in Australia. Just about going on 54. And my life and my mission and my purpose is quite complex. And I've done multiple types of things in my life. I don't know where you would like me to start, but I've got I suppose the two halves are the automotive career. So I'm a teacher. I'm a college teacher. I do vocational education, and so by day I work for a trade college teaching automotive spare parts and sales. And it's just because I've been involved with parts since I was 17, and I've been involved with cars all my life. So it's one aspect, and people think it's a little bit of a clash with the things that I practice outside of that, but it's just another aspect of who I am. And I guess I've been specializing in performance and race engines for the last 20 years. And I had a little bit of a sideline business, and I still have plenty of contacts in the US doing performance and race engine parts. I have a classic car, a 1964 Mercury, and it's a bit of a rat rod, and I really enjoy driving that about and getting along and meeting other people and talking about the depths of muscle cars and these sorts of areas. So that's kind of one area that's my whole career, I guess. But really, who I am is I've been studying martial arts since I was 11, and done many different types and systems of martial arts. I've been very blessed to train with many different special people and masters from around the world, and I competed in karate for many years and competed at a high level in Australia and Australasia, and I've trained in New Zealand, and I've trained in Japan, and I was a reserve on the Australian team for when was that, 2000 in for the world titles. And later I with the multiple different sorts of systems that I trained in, and I won't go into that. It's very complex. It'll take an hour just to talk about martial arts side of things, but and I've trained in Thailand, and so briefly, what I do now is, since about 2007, I've been involved with a Chinese core-based system, and it's a multiple styles of classical and self-defense and sport combat rolled into one. I've been training in that for many years. I'm about to do my Sifu level grading in the next month or two, and I've also just received another black belt in which is number 7. I think it's going to be like a number 9 or something or other when I'm, by the time I finish the other one, in Okinawan karate. And this gives me an opportunity to do an instructor's program there. It's highly academic as well. There's in fact, both systems have a high level of human movement, obviously the typical things that come with martial arts, but a high level of historical and philosophical areas, and also intellectual based areas. And we look at, psychology, and have to write academic pieces as well. And the instructor's program will be next year, and then I'll have the license to teach that system as well. So I teach at home. I have a little training area, and I do personal training in there. So I've been doing personal training. I teach fitness, mainly for over 40s. And I have several clients that roll through, and in particular, I just have one client who's a wealthy gentleman. He's become a good friend. We've been training together for 9 years. And I think that, and the mixture with my fitness based in martial arts, and then I'm always at the cutting edge of what's going on with corrective and rehabilitation type exercises, athletic performance. And these things combined with the Zen yoga and the Qi Gong. So I focus on, breath work. I'm very pleased that there's a movement on breath work globally at the moment. It's all the trend. Of course, it's a 5,000-year-old thing, and we just got to be a little bit wary that there's people out there qualified for 5 minutes, and I'm not anything against that, but we need to pick an instructor that's got some depth. I've been doing various areas of Taoist breathing and Buddhist breathing and modern breathing and that sort of thing for over 30 years. So that combined with the Qigong exercises, the ancient exercises, the hybrid blend of Zen yoga, which comes from my dear brother and friend, my mentor, Aaron Hoops, who's based in Vermont. He was based here for many years, and we met through karate, and then he went on to be an incredible teacher and yoga master. So I've learned from him and been certified for him for the Zen yoga. So I call it Zen yoga Qigong Australia. And with all of this sort of physical base, and then we can talk about later the areas of spiritual science, where we have to talk multiple languages, everything from shamanism to mediumship to ancient texts to quantum physics and epigenetics and the psycho-somatic type movement that we've got going on. And all of this sort of combined, I've put it into principles that I live by, and I live by principles and universal laws rather than rules. I don't do rules very well.
Well, neither do we.
So, all of these things combined have been able to give me quite a unique base. And so for fulfillment personally, contentment and fulfillment, mission, purpose, dharma. If I'm teaching and coaching and training, and I'm an author as well coming up, if I'm doing these sorts of things, I'm quite content. And it gives me a very wide scope to help people in their personal evolution. And we've certainly, with my client, my friend there, we've overcome, back injuries. We've overcome marriage breakups together, and we've overcome prostate cancer. Yeah, so there's a lot of power in all of these combined practices. So that's the way I like to live. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll leave it there. Let me go on.
Part of what I hear, Michael, is that ultimately you're a teacher and you're also a deep diver, right? So you're deep diving in what you're passionate about, and then you love teaching that to other people. So whether it's your automotives that you're passionate about, but you love teaching it too, right? Because it's a true love of yours. And then the same thing with your martial arts. You've been practicing martial arts since you're 11, and then you deep dive because it makes you happy, but it also gives you purpose to then go back and share and teach other people how martial arts can impact their lives. And so
Right.
it may sound kind of silly, that duality of automotive and martial arts, but it makes perfect sense because they're both true passions and you love to teach. So why wouldn't you teach both of those?
Yeah, just the way it worked out, with the automotive, I was just, so burnt out from the selling side of things. And I randomly got offered a teaching position, and I said yes at the college, and I resurrected a qualification. It's an apprenticeship, 3-year workplace-based apprenticeship that I teach. And I rewrote. I spent 8 months or 9 months rewriting it and restructuring it, and had to do all the business development for it. And now I work with about 25 or 30 apprentices all over Brisbane and Gold Coast area, Sunshine Coast. And it's good to give back. It's like I just tell them I don't have any need for this kind of knowledge anymore. I'm not doing that job, so they can pick my brain to pieces. Whatever's left in there, they can. And I do the same thing with martial arts too. I don't, there's a lot of people, unfortunately, that hold back, so that I don't know, they have a one-upmanship or something on their students, and I never do that. Just give it all. If they say, "Oh, you haven't taught me that," I say, "Oh, I forgot about that. That's probably why." Let's look at it now, and have no problem giving away the extensive knowledge that I've gathered over the last 43 years in that sort of training.
It's really beautiful. Yeah.
The other thing I hear is like the constant learning and the constant, like the deep diving, the wanting to understand, wanting to know, wanting to make sense. That's part of what I hear and what you're sharing, which is, totally down our alley always, right? So it's really beautiful to hear you, and that's life, right? We start somewhere and then it just takes us someplace else, or it's a combination. I remember, I think Bromley Brown was sharing in one of her books. She was talking about a friend who wrote a book on like the dashes, right? It's like, I am a mother dash, yoga teacher dash, dash, right? And because we're not just one, right? We're just a combination of all of it. So Michael, if we really knew you, what would we know?
Oh, well, this is interesting thing about you just talking about identity there. And so I think there's a couple of things we need to be aware of, conscious of. Our consciousness is expanding. As you're talking about, I used to seek a lot when I was in my 20s and 30s. I was lost and looking and seeking, and now I just value learning and sharing that learning. But I think if we're very conscious about our identity, what do you identify with? What's your labels and all these things? You're a father, brother, husband, partner, and whatever it is your career title is, and that sort of thing. And and if I said teacher, that's quite deep. It can be a surface level thing, and these are surface level things, but I think we should all understand, get closer to our core of what it is, that is really of high value to us, that we want to absorb and reflect and leave as our, understand our telos and leave as a legacy back to family and friends. So, I've sort of developed this thing. It's just really in its early stages, but I ran it for a little while, called the SAGE Self-Mastery Program. And it's like a small workshop, 4 workshops that it's kind of, half a dozen people. And in there, we talk about identity. We're trying to work out who it is that you think you are. And then I would shift on to a meditation that is based around I am, from the story of Moses in Genesis, where he talks about I am that I am. And I think it was Neil Donald Walsh or something like that was telling a story about that, his interpretation, where it was, I am all things, I'm omnipresent. If we have a creator or a source or whatever you want to label God, or I think it's something that's the presence that is never in absence. It's omnipresent. And to say that I am that, I am, and I am you, and I am you, Martina, I am you, Christina, I am me, I am my partner, I am the tree outside that I can see there, I'm the sky, I'm all these living elements that we're energetically connected to, in the earth and the universe. And so then there's no separation, you see. We're connected. There's no division. We have the perception of division and separation, unfortunately, and those sorts of things are contributing to things like depression and anxiety. We feel like we don't fit in, or but the reality is that we're all the same. So I think that was that message of I am that I am, and so I think that's really important in knowing that I'm everything, and we don't need to, we can go deeper than just an identity of whatever your occupation is, or that you're a mother or a father or something. And not that that's not important. Secondly, then, if we have a look at Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, and I think he's brought something very interesting, is that, and it's, it's not a new thing either, but it is, a new way of looking at things, because the ancient cultures knew about this, the shamans knew about doing things outside of time. If we're healing, we're doing outside of time. What does that mean? So we have, we're experiencing flow states, for example, then we're in a place of having no concept of time and space. That feels like it's collapsing, and all of a sudden we're coming to. We've had a shift. We're waking up from a meditation or whatever it may be, and there's been a shift. There's been a change. So there's the concept of time as we know it in the Western world is, was not of the ancients, and it's not in quantum science either. As we look at this, we sort of go, well, time is not there, and neither is matter. You know, that's Newtonian physics. So we've got to look at that and say, well, and so what Dispenza is doing is these meditations where people need to evolve and change on a rapid basis. We've got this idea of influencing matter through energy.
Yeah.
Right. So then the process is to become nobody. Right. Remember Ram Dass? He had this series called Becoming Nobody. So it's an old, it's, you know, it's from the Vedas. It's a Vedantic, you know, from the Upanishads and the Hindu traditions as well, that we're looking at and going, how close can we become to be nothing and nobody and no thing in no time and no space? And once we sort of strip away that identity, right? You know, if I didn't have a name, what's my name? No name. You know, where am I? No space. What time is it? No time. You know, and I'm just become nothing. What's left? What is left of a human? And we're stripped back to being light and vibration, right? We're just energy. And people say, well, you know, that's all woo-woo. It's not. Well, you know, you can measure light in photons. You know, we can measure that we can measure the frequency. So if you want to put science to it and have it repeatable and measurable, you can. So this is the multiple languages that I perhaps need to talk to when I'm talking to men. You know, some men don't want to hear woo-woo, and some women are okay with it. So I need to change languages and talk to men, for example, who have some issues in science, so that there's something solid. But anyway, the point of that is that we can identify with something, or we can come back and be nobody. And then when we've got this nobody state of mind or state of being, you know, deep in the theta brainwave or something, we can create or
It's all
heal.
possibility at that point.
Yeah, because the flip side of nothing is everything, right? It's the flip side, right? And yeah,
we're taking a chance on the unknown.
It's interesting what you're talking about, Dr. Joe. You know, like women are much more like they follow their intuition, so it's much easier to say, yeah, this feels right. Okay, I'm going to try it. And men need the sciencey part to understand before they can.
What they need to do is connect with their heart and their gut and say,
yeah. And I think that's what Dr. Joe is so good at, right? He explains the scientific reasons why meditation works, and here's the chemical changes that's happening in your body. And for a lot of people, that makes it way more accessible and like, oh, I can understand that, right? Like, okay, this makes sense.
Well, there's a safety aspect to
right. He's a doctor,
right? There's the safety aspect to understanding, right? For us, for our, you know, in the coaching that I do, I first, you know, it's almost like I first talk to the brain. So then the brain can relax, and then we can dive into our inner worlds and just explore and find the answers inside of us that are our answers, right? But it's really like to help the brain settle. We need the facts so we can go, okay, good. I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. And, you know, there's many different meditations that I utilize and many different practices. But, you know, there's a process, and really we want to speak to the heart. The heart intelligence is at the core of things. And if, you know, the old language of saying, you know, from the bottom of my heart, or I have that gut feeling, you know, that's there for a reason, that old language, isn't it? You know, and so the polyvagal system, which connects the gut and all the organs to the heart, and then sends messages in conjunction together to the cranial brain. And then, you know, so there's this, you know, the mind is where it begins. We have to have the brain. There's a lot of people trying to figure out, you know, how the brain can do all these things, but there's still got to be something talking to the brain. The brain can't, the brain is not the core of consciousness. It's really about, we're just receiving messages. We're electromagnetic beings, and there's things coming in and out, feelings coming back in, and thoughts going back and going out. So the mind, and we need to discern these sorts of messages coming in. There's, the Heart Math Institute has now done all these sorts of tests and saying, okay, well, it's actually the heart that's receiving these signals from our senses first, something we see, and then we might perceive that as being, good or wonderful, or we might perceive something as being dangerous or something or other. So then it goes to the heart, and then goes to the brain. And then we have a series of things happen there. So that, and this is the area that I work in a lot, and it works in martial arts, and it works in healing, and it's education, right? So people can understand how we work. And so we need to know what comes to the senses, and what the inner voice is, this idea of mind. And then we need a discernment to say what are the messages, and where am I going with it? Do I analyze it, or do I bypass the analytical brain by using the heart and have no judgment, and therefore we're receiving these true kind of answers just for us? This is our own authentic truth that we need to learn how to hear, if you like, listen to, and then we can make choices and decisions from there. But then there's the nervous system does something. That's the next step. So we're either on the parasympathetic or the sympathetic branch. Polyvagal system comes off the parasympathetic branch, and we can move into rest or digest or rejuvenate, relax, or we're in sympathetic, where we have that, freeze and flight, fight type of thing. We're ready for action. Consequently, then the endocrine system comes in, and we're releasing chemicals and hormones to respond to something like that. And of course, they're either going to be, endorphins and oxytocin and those type of things, or we're going down the other road of cortisol and adrenaline to get ready for action. So there's all these things down. So we need to know that for self-defense. We need to know that for long-term stress and tension. If we understand how things work, education was the key for my own story.
I was just going to ask you, it's like, what was your biggest lesson, right? Like what made you who you are today?
Well,
what took most courage? When did you stand up for something that mattered? Like, what was that led you to all of that, right? Because it's like, wow, like there's so much teaching, there's so much inside of that, and there's so much wisdom. And then my question immediately is like, okay, so is there something underneath that caused you to dive into that, right?
Yeah. Well, you're very perceptive, and thank you for asking that question. And I guess that, this gets into a very personal area, but, so I did suffer from depression for many, many years, back in my sort of 20s and 30s. And, I went through 2 divorces. I went through 2 marriages. So, there's no regrets about any of that type of thing now. The healing has been done. And, my first wife, we were together for 17 years, and we have 2 beautiful daughters, so we're okay. And, but the environment that we're in with my work, and the relationship just sort of kind of struggling and that sort of thing, for many years. I just felt there was something missing inside of me. It was nothing really to do with her at all, yeah, there was times we didn't get along, of course, and eventually we just couldn't work it out anymore. and we split up in 2009. So there's no blame, you know. I don't have any, maybe back then I may have, but now there's no victim mentality. You know, that's the lowest form of our spiritual self, is victim mentality. So the first thing we need to do is work out, you know, what's valuable and priority to us, so that we can move towards those values. And it takes some objectivity and disassociation first before we can shift out of that foggy area of that terrible, you know, stuck in the past type feelings of depression, for example. So I went through all of this and was very stuck. And I think that, you know, long story short, you know, and obviously the martial arts saved me quite a lot, because I just trained really hard, and it was sort of a savior, but it was also an outlet. And I was just continually frustrated because there was just something inside of me, and I couldn't figure out what I needed to do. And of course, you know, you're stuck. And when I say stuck, I was stuck by choice. You know, we all have choices. So I chose to stay, of course, because we're in a traditional idea of, you know, relationship and marriage and things like that. And you have a mortgage and you have children, and but I got out, and the key was education. So this is when I started working with one of my mentors, who we're going to interview next week, actually. His name is Don Power, and you know, this is now in the area of the course I did, let's call it, was introduction to NLP, Neuro Semantics, self-mastery, executive coaching, and leadership. And that made a big impact. And then I sort of expanded on that. So I utilized that stuff, and then I expanded on that, you know, because you know, NLP on its own is some really good tools and good communication tools, models for excellence and things like that. Dr. L. Michael Hall was obviously the guy way back in the 90s who said it's missing something, and he added that semantics, that neurosemantics of meaning. We're missing the meaning, you know, and added in that sort of axis of change type coaching. And then all of this came into this, you know, self-leadership and self-empowerment to help lead ourselves and lead others. So I started practicing all these things and doing, but I couldn't quite get, you know, my second wife was very, very supportive of personal development. And so we were both doing, you know, we were introduced to Dr. John Demartini's work, and you know, and Demartini's work has been like threaded us all together. We have a group of acquaintances and dear friends that have all come out of Demartini's work, and we're connected that way, if you like, originally. But you know, that relationship was very beautiful, and I have no regrets. But again, it was volatile, and we were older and we were more mature, we were wiser, and we said, we ended it, you know. But it was at that time, so it was really tough, right? You know, emotionally, you know, for me, all of these things, plus, you know, dealing with my father's sickness. He was sick for 40 years with rheumatoid arthritis. He passed away in 2020. But yeah, and just the frustration of my work was very unfulfilling. And finally, I just, it was in my mid-40s, and I really just broke through. You know, I was on my own. I relished in the solitude, and I immersed in my work. I did become a little bit of a recluse there for a while, but it was so valuable to me personally to shift and really awaken, and an opportunity to connect and stitch together and create purposeful practices for myself and others then, because it was like, oh my God, I just need to, you know, resonate, whoever I resonate with on this area. You know, you could tell people, hey, I can help you, or, you know, you mention something and you know by the response whether they're like, I don't know what you're talking about and I don't really care. Okay, yeah, not my ideal person that I want to try and help. But there's others that are just like, oh wow, like, I could really hang out with you. I could really use your guidance, and you go down that road. But all these things happen. There was a massive awakening, and all that. It's sort of the culmination of all these practices and all this education. So education was the first thing. So I would talk about that. If you've got emotional issues, you know, in whether it's in the area of anger or depression or, you know, delusion or anxiety or whatever, we're too far in the future or we're too far in the past, overactive imagination, we've got rumination, we've got lack of sleep, we've got all these things, you know what about, you're a coach, you understand, and you've probably heard all these things. But I think one of the first thing to do is you know, how is it that we work, educate people on that. How does these, you know, everything from what's receiving in our senses to our belief systems and our value systems and all those modal operators that, you know, what we value and our perceptions. The perception is key to beginning change. And you've got to want to.
Mm-hmm.
Some people don't want to, and some people don't care. And they, you know, they're either delusional or they're just a knuckle dragger that doesn't really care. And they're quite fine how they are. So that's fine, no problems. And then
maybe those people are here to teach us. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
I believe the part of why they are not wanting is part of, you know, they're here to teach us so we can see, wow, okay, no, this is not what we want, right?
Why am I making things so complex? You know, like that's such a simple way. You just want to relax and to you know, whatever that is. Yeah, absolutely. You can, but yeah, it's tough, but it's really about perception. Some people really want to change, and that's you know, there's people who think they want to change, but they've got some pretty severe psychological problems that require heavy psychotherapy and trauma, dealing with trauma and that sort of thing. And I don't really get into that area, although I'm aware of it all. But yeah, I think that you know, the perception is really key. I want to change. I feel it. I'm stuck. It's I've had enough. I'm done. I really need to change. And they're the people that have the potential to inspire. You know, we need inspiration in the present moment before there's any such thing as motivation.
Yeah.
So Michael, if you had a magic wand and could give people any quality, what would it be and why?
Oh, that's a hard one. You know, you can't expect, like we were just talking about, you know, a lot of people want world peace and all that sort of stuff. That's on the inside. You know, if you want peace in your world, you do your peace from the inside, and you be peaceful in here and have that as a you know, your internal journey and your outward expression, your self-realization, to your self-actualization, to your self-transcendence. But so there's always going to be these people in the world who are power greedy in a very destructive way. There's always going to be crime. There's always going to be war. There's always going to be famine and third world conditions. And I have a great deal of compassion for those and empathy for those groups and those people. And I've sort of been there in a sort of way, so my magic wand is not to have world peace. There's got to be a balance of opposites no matter what. As much as we feel like the tribe of our vibration that us three here at least share.
Yeah.
I think that wishing for that is not realistic. I could probably apply the magic wand. I could ask that question to different people, and everyone's got a different answer, I suppose, of what they want personally. But I guess, if everyone could just sort of have a realization that there's a global connection, we don't need to feel separate, or divided. Maybe there's that realization. Maybe that's the magic wand.
It's beautiful.
Connection with love.
Yeah. Unity. Yeah. That's what I heard when you said we're connected. Unity.
Yeah.
Unity. And unity seems to be the word that keeps coming. Everybody's saying that. It's like that's where we're moving to. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. So tell us about the time you took a chance for love. And it might not be necessarily romantic love. When did you take a chance for love?
Well, there was probably, certain romantic loves that that happened over the years. I'm in this blessed relationship with Emily, and 5 years now. I guess, and I'm talking for myself, but I might be talking for a lot of people, is taking a chance on self-love, to really turn inward and say, have unconditional love, not a love with conditions. People say, oh, unconditional love, but what does that really mean? And so I'll love myself when, I put on all this muscle. I'll love myself when I lose this weight. I'll love myself when I'm healthy. I'll love myself when I have all this money. No, just start now and love yourself as you are. And it's a very, very difficult thing for people to grasp or to be in that state of mind or to do. And that was very tough for me because of the situations I was in. And maybe a lot of men can relate, of a feeling of hopelessness and helplessness and not good enough. Okay. A lot of people are just feeling not good enough for themselves or some others or whatever else. So to overcome that and fall into a place of I'm okay, and loving yourself is not a place of an egoic place, or we have a name for it here in Australia. I won't repeat that. Having tickets on yourself is a fine line between confidence and ego and all these sorts of things. It's really it's not about that. It's about just being, I'm really content with myself and who I am. So I took a chance on diving deeply inward for myself many years ago, and that's paid off because now I can help so many other people.
Yeah, self-love is the true key to powerful relationships, because you can't love someone else if you're not loving yourself first. And so ultimately that always has to be the place where we start, although most of us do not start there. But
because otherwise you need something from the other person, right? You need the person to give you something that you don't have.
But that's it. If you you're rescuing someone, or you're you know, I'll die without you, you know, all these songs that are out there. I can't live without you, and all these sort of things. Well, you can, and you're better if you're, you know, I don't need any sort of fixing. I'm happy to grow and evolve if you're in that sort of mindset. But you've done healing, you've done work on yourself, and that's the best time to fall in love, you know, with someone, I think, is because you're feeling rather full, and you're okay, and you know, content, and whatever else. That's the time where you're at your highest vibration to attract into someone else of a similar vibration, a partner into your life.
Agreed. Yeah. All right, Michael, last question. What is the legacy that you would like to leave?
Oh boy. Well, obviously I think about yeah, there's been a lot of exercises around our telos. You know, we're starting with the end in mind. Okay, we're going to the end of our life, and not in a morbid sort of a way, but just sort of, this is a reality, and look back. Okay, if someone's reading your eulogy, and you've got a group of people celebrating your life, and you know, that are in a whatever that place may be, are they saying the things that you would like them to say? You know, are they reading back and saying, yeah, well, Michael was a good bloke. Yeah, he was this. Yeah, anyway, he was all right anyway. Is that enough, you know? Or do we want to say, you know, what is it you want them to hear? And if it's not what you want them to hear, you better start working on it now. And so I think obviously I've got my children that I want to leave certain things to. I think, you know, education, I'm an educator, and I think so. There's books, you know, I've got my book that I'm nearly finished now, and another 2 books in the making, programs and things like that. So these sorts of things will contain areas of my life's work, and have some elements of very personal things that I would like to leave as a legacy to my children, to family, friends, to the community, and obviously to a global community at some stage as well. And so that's where I want to leave a legacy, and the legacy would sort of contain things like the 5 principles and the 4 realms. We have the 4 realms of being human. So we're on our physical level, our mental learning level, our emotional level, and our spiritual levels. And these 4 areas, and I know that we have, you know, there's other areas of life, vocational areas, and well, I guess one of them is this philanthropy or giving back. And so that's another area where all this would culminate and go back to. So I do all my work on those 4 areas. I don't, even though I'm qualified in, actually, I've been in finance, things like that as well. I've done all that as well. I'm not a life coach that works with, you know, monetary wealth or anything like that. It's about spiritual wealth, wealth of knowledge, wealth of skills, as different sorts of wealth, wealth of wisdom. And would like to be a wisdom keeper, and a wisdom, you know, something that passes on, that education around wisdom, ancient wisdom, modern wisdom, knowledge and skills. Every skill has to have an underpinning knowledge. And so it would be these 5 dominant principles that I live by: the agility, the flexibility, the clarity, the strength, the balance. And then I have some other principles as well that come in there: the oscillation and adaptability, resilience. And these are sort of things that I'm capturing in programs. I'm capturing them in books. Those are the sorts of things that I would like to leave behind, that would help people evolve you know, and to be the best version of themselves. And obviously this would involve my version of these Qi Gong exercises and the Zen yoga exercises and all their historical and philosophical connections and martial arts. So I'm at a position where it's quite a blessing, but I'm really being left with, you know, this system of martial arts that there's very few of us, and I'll be one of these people that's left to pass on these library books, if you like, physical movement, all the way through to this feeling of, you know, self-defense is like homeostasis. I want to remain the same. Brushing your teeth and things like that. Self-defense, eating well, looking after yourself in all different sorts of ways. Holistic well-being, that's self-defense too. So all of those things, I guess, those areas of legacy that I would like to leave behind eventually, or now, start now, why not?
And it's now and now and now and now. It's beautiful because it's really, you know, like that whole piece of, you know, as a yoga teacher, I could tell you that yoga is here as a preparation for meditation, and meditation is all about going inside and becoming present, and you know,
Right.
but we got it so mixed up, so we lose big part of, you know, like I imagine it's the same thing with martial arts. It's like, okay, it's the self-defense, but what about the whole, like the whole background that goes into it, right? It's not just the beating the crap out of someone or know how to make that efficiently,
Yeah.
but it's the mindfulness, it's the coming within, it's the knowing yourself that I hear in what you say you want to leave and pass on, which is really, really, really beautiful and really powerful.
Right. Neuro Semantic mindfulness. I think that's, you know, some of the words. And yoga is just, you just mentioned that, it made me think of, I don't know how we're going for time there, but I just made me think of, you know, surrendering. You know, this is one of the biggest things for men, is to learn how to let go and to surrender, rather than put in effort all the time. The masculine energy is to effort push. If we are able to use degrees, you know, in the Hermetic laws, we have degrees of masculine, feminine, the law of gender, right? But it's not being, you know, girly or the woman being manly. It's we're utilizing degrees of that energy.
Yeah.
Just how much do I need? You know, it's a sort of gray, if you like. It's not black and white. And the postures that we might to the asanas in yoga is a good example of, I just can't get this flexibility. I just can't get this posture. I'm trying and trying. Just let go. Just stop trying. Stop pushing and surrender, and allow yourself, allow your physical body to get into that posture. Once you learn that, we learn, you know, I've got a saying that says, the mind employs the body to teach the mind, right? So if we let the body teach the mind how to surrender, then we can go to the next layer and surrender on an emotional level. We can surrender mentally, you know, beliefs and things like that. We can then surrender spiritually.
Yeah. And the body's only going to go as far as the mind goes, and the mind is only going to go as far as the body goes, right? And we all three know that, right? We all, like, in the work we're doing. So it's fascinating to bring those together. So Michael, you have a business. Do you want to tell us about it? Do you want to tell us how people can reach you? How we're going to put all the contact in the notes, but you can just share everything so people know.
I have a very basic website, which is probably not updated, and it's just michaelbromley.com.au. And I have two sort of streamings. One is MB Training. MB Training is associated then with a registered training organization where I can teach the certificate 3 and 4 in fitness, CPR, first aid, Cert 3 in sport coaching, diploma of leadership and management. And this is all associated with Synergy Central, who is the registered training organization that belongs to my Sifu, my Sifu John Suttles, my mentor. And so this is a little bit of a associated thing where we can sort of do together. And those certifications, I suppose, are really restricted within Australia. Although we can, you know, take those aspects of leadership and management, you know, and put them elsewhere. I have MB Training Australia. So the other side of that, now we're coming to the areas of physical, you know, personal training. I'm a holistic trainer, so I do all those 4 realms. Someone comes to me for PT, you know, I do it at 4 columns. So let's talk about, you know, the spirituality and all that. And a lot of people get taken aback by that, and they just want to do the physical stuff. But the problem is, you know, something emotionally may hold them back. Another story, Zen Yoga Qi Gong Australia. The men's work is something that I've been developing. MENS is a acronym. It's movement, energy, neuroscience, and Zen. Okay, so it's just getting a holistic man going on, if I can help in some way. So there's foundations getting laid there. There's a SAGE self-mastery program. The martial arts training. So we have the 2 different systems of Koryu Chinati, Kempo Jitsu, the Okinawan Karate, and the Lung Fu Jin Fa, which is the Chinese-based system. So I teach them locally. I do have an online program called the Zen Movement for Life program. So this is accessible globally, and it's currently at $347 Australian. It's 100 videos of instructions and follow along videos and me talking about different concepts. There's about 16 or 18,000 words in PDF downloads attached to that as well. So that's been ready to go. Timeless principles. And so that's available. The book will be finished in a few months, I hope.
Woohoo!
Yeah, it's called The Way Within. My book is called The Way Within, and it's 5 principles for mindful self-mastery and self-leadership. I'm also started on a new book, which is about the power of elements. So I'm talking about the 4 elements, you know, in those traditions. And that will cover history and experiences, doctrine, and you know, different aspects, traditional. It'll even go into what's happening globally, environmentally, you know, because one of the subjects I teach is best practice and sustainability. And later on, there'll be a book about the bridge between spirituality and science, and it might be a longer term project, areas of self-mastery, and faith is that bridge.
Beautiful.
So you can reach me on through the website or info@michaelbromley.com.au.
Fantastic.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Perfect. We're going to put that all in the notes, and, you know, thank you so much for being here. We so appreciate you. Thank you for sharing you, showing
Really
yourself. It's really, you know, as I said before we came on the call, we need to see people. We need to have the ability to see people. So thank you for showing yourself to us.
It's a really wonderful program that you have, and you know, there's this extraordinary. Everyone's extraordinary. Everyone has a genius, and to be able to, I guess, exploit, expose, bring out, is the wrong words.
Showcase.
Those individuals, they're
Yeah.
not famous or anything like that, you know, but they're extraordinary people who have a story to tell that's that does have a great deal of value for others to share and learn from. It's a very noble cause.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for all of you out there. Thank you for being here, for listening. If you love this, please leave us a review. Please share. Just please share. It's so important. Maybe you know someone who just needs a little inspiration. So please share. And please remember that you are extraordinary. You rock. Have a wonderful day.
Bye for
Thanks.
now.
Thank you.